thought that I should do the Thursday session, something about Buddha. And then it just struck me, why not take on Jiddu Krishnamurti? Because some of you who may know about him, he was brought up and he was trained so that Buddha could come in him. We all know that one of the greatest teachers, in fact, the greatest teachers that the world has seen so far, is undoubtedly Gautam Buddha, because he has transcended nationality, religion, caste, everything. While we may say that Buddhism is another kind of a spiritual path or a religion, but the fact is that Buddha is accepted all over the globe. He is seen to be the embodiment of enlightenment, the embodiment of the highest truth that a person can achieve in their life. And it was Jiddu Krishnamurti who was considered to be the next greatest world teacher. A very interesting life, and I'm going to share, some parts of his life with you, and then we'll discuss his teachings. For me, when I was growing up, I saw my father reading Jiddu Krishnamurti, so that is where I got introduced to him. Then one of my cousin Buas, she was a follower of Jiddu Krishnamurti, and I used to be very fascinated listening to her, although I didn't understand a single word of what they were talking about. Later, I read a biography of J. Krishnamurti by Pupul Jaykar. It is the most popular book on him. And Pupul Jaykar was his disciple, very close associate, and she was also a political figure. She was very close to Indira Gandhi, and in fact an advisor to her when Indira Gandhi was the prime minister. And Pupul Jaykar served many years as the president of Krishnamurti Foundation. So she is one of those people who had lived very, very closely with Krishnamurti, and she wrote a biography, and I'm going to share quite a few things from that biography. Plus, over a period of time, of course, when you develop spiritual interests, it naturally happens that you explore different people. So I have done a little other research, and then I have heard about him, my Guruji who taught me Kriya Yoga. So a lot of things over there, and a very interesting life. To start with, J. Krishnamurti was born on the 12th of May, 1895. Actually, if you will check in Google, it will give you 11th of May. But in Pupul Jaykar's biography, it is given 12th of May, and I consider that to be, more valid than what is there on the internet. And last Thursday was actually 12th of May, so I thought that that would have been the right time to celebrate on his birthday. But anyways, he was born in a village called Madanapalli, which is in the district of Chittoor, district of Andhra Pradesh, south of India. That was on the 12th of May. And his mother was, again, a very spiritual person. And she was also a psychic. Like, not only that she was versed in the Vedas or the scriptures, but she used to have visions, and there were things that she saw. And when Krishnamurti ji when she was about to give birth to him, it so happened that she decided to give him birth in the temple of their house. And you can imagine, this we are talking about the year 1895. So you can imagine at that point of time in south of India, where the puja room is the sacred place, and giving birth to baby is a very kind of a dirty process, right? But to her, nobody said no. Otherwise, it wouldn't be allowed. And she felt that she wanted to give the birth there. And once she was ready, she felt the labor pains. That is where she went. And when the baby was born, of course, as is the tradition in India, the next day his horoscope was drawn. And the astrologer, a very well-known astrologer who looked at his horoscope, he told his father that his son would be a very great man. He is going to be a great teacher, which the world will know. And J. Krishnamurti was the eighth of nine children of his parents, and after 3 years, there was another son born to them whose name was Nityanand. And J. Krishnamurti was very close to his younger brother Nitya. Interestingly, when they were growing up, Krishnamurti had no interest in studies. He did not show really any particular inclination to academic work. He used to spend a lot of time looking at the clouds, at ants, insects, and just gazing into the vast distance. In fact, his teachers said that he was possibly mentally retarded, and he was described as sickly and mentally developed. It also so happened because for 1 year his body was so weak, and he used to get these infections very soon. So for one whole year he could not even go to school. Comparatively, his brother was extremely intelligent. But Krishnamurti was very attached, one, to his mother and also to his younger brother. And his mother passed away when he was just 10 years old, that is in 1905. And Krishnamurti later, when he has written his memoirs about his mother, he has talked that she was the one who introduced him to the Mahabharata and the Ramayana and the Indian scriptures, and also to the Theosophical Society and to Annie Besant. I'll talk more about Annie Besant as we continue. Plus, his mother used to see the souls. Okay, she had this psychic vision where she could see those who had passed away. In fact, one of his sisters who had passed away, he said that she used to come very regularly to the house and the mother used to talk to her. And the mother even showed Krishnamurti how to see her. And initially he used to get very scared because, of course, he was a very small baby. He must be, 7 or 8. But later on, he could also see her. And when his mother passed away at 10, he has mentioned that he could see his mother for a very long time. And whenever he used to go to school or go out, the mother used to accompany him and he used to see her, actually. So this was a little on Krishnamurti's childhood. Now, when we discuss about Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, it is very important to know about the Theosophical Society. It was Madame Blavatsky. She was a Russian, and she lived in Tibet for many years in close contact with the Tibetan lamas, the Mahatmas, and the masters of the occult brotherhood. And there she learned from her guru, the Tibetan sage, well-guarded doctrines, like the secret texts which are not taught to anybody. They were taught to her, Madame Blavatsky. And she later on also wrote a book called, in fact, it's a series of books called Secret Doctrine. Very interesting. So that is, you can consider that to be the Bible of Theosophical Society, which has influenced a lot of people. When after studying in Tibet, she got a message from her masters. They guided her to meet another person named Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, okay, who was a psychic researcher in the United States. And because the masters had asked her, she went and met him. They got together and they decided to start the Theosophical Society. And this Theosophical Society was actually set up in India. She was a Russian, he was an American. They were being guided by the Tibetan sages, and it was set up in India. So their head office is in Adyar, Madras. It is still there. It was in 1882. Now, this Theosophical Society, when they set up, it was the purpose of Theosophical Society. The purpose was to study ancient wisdom, to explore hidden mysteries of nature, to discover latent powers of man, establish an occult hierarchy using Hindu, Buddhist, and Tibetan tantric teachings, and eventually to prepare for the Masiha, the world teacher. At that point of time, in the late 19th century and early 20th century, there was a lot of talk among the occultists where they felt that it was time for the great world teacher to arrive, like after Buddha. And who is going to teach the world? Who will be someone who will go beyond religions, nations, and everything, and whom the whole world is going to listen to. And they were talking about that. So actually, even when Madame Blavatsky set up this Theosophical Society, it was all these things are there. But yes, their main purpose was to prepare for the world teacher. And Theosophical Society mainly is an occult tradition. Okay, in fact, it is said that the best of the records and the best of the scriptures in the occult field are in Tibet. But now, because of Chinese invasion, nobody knows, where they are and what has happened to them. And after that, the best scriptures, the best library of all those occult texts is in the Theosophical Society in Madras. That is where it is. At that point of time, all of you, I'm sure, must have heard about Annie Besant. And Annie Besant actually was a very prominent figure in UK, and someone who was very powerful, extremely organized, extremely good organizational capabilities. Plus, she had friends like Bernard Shaw, and very dedicated. Plus, someone who was passionate about freedom of thought, women's rights, unionism. So, someone really, really well connected and very influential. And she happened to read this secret doctrine by Madame Blavatsky, which changed her life. It turned her life completely 180 degrees. And just after reading that, she immediately went and met Madame Blavatsky. And the moment she decided that this is what she wanted to pursue, at that point of time in 1893, she traveled to India. And what bothered her when she came to India, because she was so amazed by what the secret doctrine had told her, and after reading her that what all possibilities are there in India, she was extremely disappointed that in India nobody is interested in those spiritual pursuits. A country which is a genius for the spiritual knowledge, they have no idea about it. One of her first lectures in her speeches, I want to share some excerpts from there. And she said, "If religion perish here, it will perish everywhere. And in India's hand is laid the sacred charge of keeping alight the torch of spirit amid the fogs and storms of increasing materialism. If that torch drops from her hands, its flame will be trampled by the feet of hurrying materialism, eager for worldly goods. And India, bereft of spirituality, will have no future, but will pass on to darkness, as Greece and Rome have passed." And one of the people who got influenced by her speeches was none other than young Jawaharlal Nehru, who was only 12 years old at that point of time. And after listening to her, he went to his father, Motilal Nehru, who was already a theosophist. He had already taken initiation in theosophy from Madame Blavatsky. And so when Jawaharlal Nehru went to Motilal Nehru and asked his permission that he wanted to join Annie Besant and the Theosophical Society, so he was given that permission, and Annie Besant herself initiated him into theosophy at the age of 30. But of course, later he got interested in politics, so he left all of that. But that is how powerful and influential she was. And because of Annie Besant, lot of other intellectuals, lot of the significant people in India joined theosophy and became interested in the spiritual things. Annie Besant did not only stop there. Can you imagine a lady who was completely into materialism, running things? She even studied the sacred books of India. She learned Sanskrit, and she would regularly visit Varanasi, meet people, meet all the saints there, have discussions with the religious leaders of the land. So her main mission of life became, of course, one is to promote theosophy, but also to promote spirituality in India. In between, Madame Blavatsky had left her body, and then Annie Besant, because she was like so passionate about this whole thing, she took over the Theosophical Society after her. And she came in contact with a psychic who was very well known for his powers of clairvoyance, who could see in the future, who could see in the past. And his name was Charles Leadbeater. So she took him on. And it was actually Charles Beater who discovered Krishnamurti. And this is also a very interesting story. So, as I shared with you, it was Krishnamurti's mother who had introduced him to Theosophy, because both her parents were Theosophists as well. Now, when Krishnamurtiji's father retired from his job, he applied to any Beasant in Madras for some work post his retirement, and he was accepted. He was given a job there, okay, in the Theosophical Society. And of course, the two boys, all the other children, but specifically here we are talking about Krishnamurti ji and his brother Nityanand, they were also there in Adyar. And they used to go every day to a beach, to the sea, to have a bath. And Charles Leadbeater also used to go over there. And that is where he spotted Krishnamurti. And when he looked at him, this boy, and his aura, so it is not about looking at the body, right? But he was looking at the aura. He was amazed to see that. And he told Annie Besant that, we have been talking about the coming of the Messiah, the great teacher. I think I have found him. And then not only Leadbeater, but of course, there are some other people as well in the Theosophical Society who were psychics, and because they were doing all this research on the occult, and they would come and just watch Krishnamurti playing with other boys near the sea. And the investigations revealed amazing past births of Krishnamurti. They found that he had been a disciple of Buddha. He has lived many lives as a teacher, and he had an aura of complete selflessness. There was no selfishness at all in his aura. So after doing all the investigations, in fact, when Leadbeater said that he is the one, so he was asked how big he will be. So he said very big. So somebody asked him, will he be as big as any Beasant? He said even bigger than that. So that is how it happened. So once it was confirmed that Krishnamurti would be the next person, although there were two more other children who were taken. Okay, but since we are talking about Krishnamurti, we'll just stay focused over here. So his father was contacted, and then Krishnamurti and his brother Nityanand, because Krishna ji wouldn't go anywhere without his brother. So both of them were adopted by Theosophical Society, and their training started. So initially they could go and meet their family, but later on even that was stopped. They had to stay completely with them. And that is where it all started for him, that the training to be the next great world teacher. And it is said that during those times, when Krishnamurti ji was very small, he could read what was in closed letters. He could read people's thoughts. He could see people. He could see fairies. Matlab, he has amazing abilities, but he was never bothered about them. And it was like, whereas others would be getting amazed, he found no significance in them, even as a small child. Then 5 months after he was accepted by them to be the next great teacher, it was decided that their initiation should happen, in the Theosophical Society. Before that, I also want to mention over here that while they were doing investigations on Krishnamurti ji, that whether he is going to be the next one, Annie Besant was visiting, as I shared with you. She used to meet a lot of people in Varanasi, the great saints, and she was also in touch with Swami Vishuddhanand, and he was one another amazing saint and an amazing person from the occult field who was in connection with what we called Gyan Ganj. And she even checked with him and showed him the pictures, and he also confirmed. Vishuddhanandji is also confirmed. He's also known as Gandha Baba. There is a mention of him in Autobiography of a Yogi, and he also confirmed that yes, he is the right person over there. So within 5 months of his coming to the Theosophical Society, it was decided now that Krishnamurti ji would be initiated. And his initiation was not going to be a simple one, very interesting. Now, see, Theosophy or the Theosophical Society is all about the occult field. And in occult, it's not all only about the people who are there in the body. Okay, there are connections with the astral world, with the saints who are there. Okay, with the other lokas. And in Theosophical Society also, there was a hierarchy. Of course, down over here, it was Annie Besant and Charles Ledbetter who were running the show. But then, of course, there were people above them. So, on the day of the initiation, Charles Ledbetter and Krishnaji both went in their astral bodies to the other world for him to be initiated, where, of course, they had another hierarchy. And where he also met, it is said that Maitreya. So, not Buddha, but Maitreya. That is another, one of the bodhisattvas. Now, it is supposed to be like something, a very, very beautiful experience for Krishnaji when he has mentioned about it. And in fact, he has also written a book. One of his first books was At the Feet of the Master. Okay, when he was very young, he has written that. And you could all have a look at it. And after he was initiated, this is at the age of 15, Jiddu Krishnamurti, after being initiated and accepted by the masters. So this was a little on his life and how he came over here. Now, after the initiation, the kind of experiences, and quite a few of them are mentioned over here, but I want to specifically call out a couple of the experiences what Krishnaji has written in his own words. And he writes over here, I had the first most extraordinary experience. There was a man mending the road. That man was myself. The axe he held was myself. The very stone which he was breaking was a part of me. The tender blade of grass was my very being, and the tree beside the man was myself. I almost could feel and think like the road mender, and I could feel the wind passing through the tree, and the little ant on the blade of grass I could feel. The birds, the dust, and the very noise were a part of me. Just then there was a car passing by at some distance. I was the driver, I was the engine, and I was the tires too. As the car went further away from me, I was going away from myself. I was in everything, or rather, everything was in me. Inanimate and animate, the mountains, the worms, and all the breathing things. All the day I remained in this happy condition. So you see, what a beautiful experience he's written. He's shared that he saw himself in everything which was there, and everything was him. Then he also talks about, like the lake, I felt that my physical body, with its mind and emotions, could be ruffled on the surface, but nothing could disturb the calmness of my soul. The presence of the mighty beings is with me. I am supremely happy for what I have seen. Nothing will ever be the same again. I have drunk at the clear, pure waters, at the source of the fountain of life, and my soul is appeased. Never more can I be thirsty. Never more can I be in utter darkness. I have seen the light. I have seen the glorious and healing light. The fountain of truth has been revealed to me. I am God intoxicated. There are, of course, many experiences. Any of you who would like to read more about him, you can read the biography and this, but I'm just sharing certain excerpts from here. So he had the experience of, what we say, you are in all, right? That oneness. Now the interesting part of Krishnamurti's story starts. See, The Theosophical Society, as I said, is an occult tradition, and they have a lot of literature. They have people over there who are doing experiments and work. And why was it set up? One of the main things for them was to prepare for the Messiah, the world teacher. And what were they doing? A lot of training was given to Krishnaji during all these years. He was being trained by the best of the psychics. He was being trained not only on the physical plane but also on the astral planes. And he has shared many of his experiences over there. And then, a time came when Krishnamurti ji again shared that I know my destiny and my work. I know with certainty that I am bending into the consciousness of the one teacher, and that he will completely fill me. I feel and I know also that my cup is nearly full to the brim and it will overflow soon. Till then, I must abide quietly and with eager patience. Okay, so when he has written that to Annie Besant. And the idea was actually that once Krishnamurti ji is ready, so see, for Buddha, this is all coming from the Tibetan tradition, okay, Tibetan occult tradition. And after, all these experiences that Krishna ji shared, Annie Besant made a statement to the press worldwide, and she said, the divine spirit is ready to descend on a man called Krishnamurti, who in his lifetime is as perfect as is possible. The world teacher is here. So everybody was waiting that, the world teacher is going to now come here. And there was a camp which was organized. Many people were, in fact, invited. The people from all over the globe had come over who could listen to him. And it was supposed to be the biggest movement for the Theosophical Society. Imagine, for all these years, ever since Madame Blavatsky set up this thing, this was going to be the moment. And that is the time when finally the time came and a camp was being held in Holland. And that is where Krishnamurti ji declined to leave. And he actually declined the whole Theosophical Society. He parted away from it. And he also refused that I am not the great teacher. I am not the guru. This is the most interesting part. And it is kind of said that only Krishnamurti could have said it. Anybody else would have, because the whole world was watching. If Annie Besant, if Theosophical Society has prepared you and you are going to be the one, then it should be that way, right? And anybody would want to be in that particular space, but not Krishnamurti. He just refused and declined. And in fact, to a shocked audience, what he said was, the Buddha, the Christ, have never claimed divinity. It was the disciples who by their worship give divinity to the teacher. So this was the great movement where after that Theosophical Society of course exists and they still have all the literature, but it was a big blow to them. Now the interesting part is, while Krishnamurti ji declined the whole idea what Theosophical Society was completely building on, but then the people who started following him, so many people started following him because of that. It is even said that at one point of time, Annie Besant wanted to close the Theosophical Society. She had decided. And it was a big blow to her. And but she recognized that what he was. And she told him that I would just like to spend my life, sitting at your feet and learning from you. But that also Krishnaji denied. He said, no, nothing doing. And while all of this controversy, of course, was going on because everybody is waiting for them to be, for him to be the great teacher, and he is denying it. So you know what he said? He said, I have only one purpose now. And my purpose is to make man free, to urge him towards freedom, to help him to break away from all limitations, because that is all that will give him eternal happiness. And He said, I am free, I am unconditioned, I am whole, not the part, I am the whole truth. And those who seek to understand me, see, this is the important statement. He said, those who seek to understand me need to be free. Please do not follow me. You need not follow me. And not to make a cage out of me, which will again become a religion, a sect. So don't do that, but be free from all the fears. That was his one of the most important messages, in fact, that he gave. So he has talked a lot about being free from fear, from all the limitations. And he's also talked about authority. He said people generally are so accustomed to authority and they think that that is what will lead to spirituality. And you think that there will be some extraordinary powers which will transport you to eternal freedom, which will happen. But he says your whole outlook is based on authority, and you need to be free from the authority. You need to be free from all the fears, including the fear of authority. That is one he's talked about. And then he has talked a lot about being free from the security. So, as you can imagine, the more a guru says, you don't need authority, you don't need to follow me, check your own ideas, check your own mind, and don't follow anyone. So many people followed him. So many people. It so happened also, and he was one person who was completely against gurus. And it is very interesting, you see, because if you see, he himself has been trained by so many gurus. There was Ledbetter, there was Annie Besant, and of course from the astral plane, there were so many gurus who were guiding him. And he has also written, as I said, one of his first books was At the Feet of My Master, where he's talked about those gurus. But the moment he understood and he started speaking, he was he was completely against gurus. And in the spiritual circles, of course, what he has shared, his teachings are absolutely clear and straight. There is no dilution over there. But in the spiritual circles, one thing of which he is generally criticized of is that he did a lot of disservice by saying that you don't need a guru. Because how many people would have the same intellect as Krishnamurti to be able to understand what he was saying? He was against all the practices. He has given, if you hear any of his talks on either meditation or any of other practices, he's speaking against them and completely against the guru culture. But he himself was trained into them. And therefore, of course, a lot of people also loved him a lot because and especially the intellectuals, the scholars, most of the people who followed him were intellectuals. And they also loved it because they thought, okay, fine, now we don't need to succumb to any guru, because there is also a little fear that we need to follow a guru and we need to surrender. So we don't need to do that. But in following him, yes, they could speak about a lot of nice words, and it was so beautiful to be with him. As a person, he was amazing, absolutely beautiful. Was he able to give you a process? Was he able to bridge that gap where you are and where he is? That bridge was not provided. So, those on the path of knowledge can clearly understand. Now, when you look at his teachings, when you read them, in fact, it is also mentioned in this biography that he also met Anandamayi Ma. She was a very, very popular lady saint in those times. And when they met, the one question that she asked him, and she said that, why are you against gurus? Why do you say no to the guru thing? And he said, because people start using guru as a crutch. That is what he answered her. And then she said, but you are also a guru. You are the greatest of gurus. So many people are following you. They are listening to you. And they say that he didn't say anything. He just kept quiet after that. If any of you have heard Osho's talks, of course, I have heard quite a few in Osho's talks when he's speaking against Krishnamurti. And even Krishnamurti ji has spoken against Osho. So that was a very interesting thing over there. Even more interesting thing is that Actually, as I just shared with you, in his life, Krishnamurti ji had so many gurus, right? But he told people, even until the last moment, he passed, he left his body when he was 90, but until the last day, he was telling people not to have a guru. And Osho, I don't know, I have not known in his lifetime if he had a guru. I think he's one person where we don't have any guru. And Osho is the one who says you cannot walk that path without a guru. It is impossible. There might be just extremely few, like you can count on your fingertips. That many people only of Krishnamurti level who can achieve without a guru. Although he also needed a guru, right? As we know. Maybe he may have done it even without the guru. But the fact is that he had gurus in his lives. So that is the only one criticism that Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti has faced in his lifetime. But he was very, very popular. Another thing that I want to mention from his life is, so when Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister, at that time, of course, Krishnaji was close to him. And after having returned from some of his sessions, one of the incidents which is quoted is that he was very depressed and angry and very disappointed with the state of affairs in the country. And he asked Krishnaji that, I don't know what to do. There is so much of disintegration over here, the social disintegration. How do I make for this? What is it that needs to be done? And you know what Krishnaji answered, which many of us will immediately be able to relate it. So he said the integration cannot happen at a social level. The integration can only start at the individual level, one individual at a time. That is where it happens. And he says because there needs to be self-knowledge. And without self-knowledge, there is no basis of the right thought or the wrong thought. The right and wrong cannot be differentiated unless you have self-knowledge. And that can only happen at an individual level. Nehruji was not impressed with the answer because as a political leader, he was looking at some solutions which would immediately transform the country, do something good for there, but that was there. And since Pupul Jaykar was also present in that particular meeting, so that is how she has been able to share this incident in her biography. Later on, now I'm talking about the teachings of J. Krishnamurti. One of the things that he mentioned very strongly was, he said that first, the human beings are looking outside. Like our eyes and brains register the outward things. You're looking at objects, people, knowledge, techniques, so on. You're going on. And he says then the same eyes and brain which were looking outside, they are trained to turn inward and look at things inside. But he said, now this is the profound statement, this inward gaze is still the outward look, and there is not much difference between the two. You see? So there is an outward gaze and there is an inward gaze. But the inward gaze, you may feel that you are looking inside, but there is not much difference between the outward or the inward. What may appear to be different may be similar. It is just the same outward gaze which is turned inward. And then he says, but there is an inward observation which is not the outward observation turned inward. There is an inward observation which is not the outward observation turned inward. This inward seeing is without the border of time and space. And in this flash, a new perception is born. Some of the teachings, very important, are observer is the observed. Observer is the observed. The last thing that I want to mention, of course, there are so many teachings there, but something that he spoke very strongly about was the freedom from security. We spoke about freedom from fear, and he spoke a lot about the desire of a human being to be secure. And he said the desire to be secure in one form or the other is so dominant that the mind adjusts itself to any pattern that can give it security and safety. So what he's saying is that the mind is always looking for security and safety. And that is where the problem is. To understand and to be aware of this desire of the mind to want to be secure is what that brings its own freedom. There is security only in the truth that life has no security. That is the truth, and in that truth is the security. I'll just repeat that. There is security only in the truth that life has no security. And in that truth, there is security. This was what I wanted to share with you all about Krishnamurti and some of his teachings. There is a lot, of course, lot more. This is just to give you an outline. You can read his books, you can follow him, you can look at his teachings, and it's really, really interesting. Okay, Ashu is sharing, I don't mind what happens. That is the essence of inner freedom. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Ashu. So this was another incident. In one of his talks, I don't know which one, but it was a very famous talk, and he was there on the dais, and there were thousands of people who were listening to him. And then, he said, today I'm going to tell you a secret. Okay, and you can imagine, like, everybody's holding their breath and going a little forward to listen to what he's going to say next. Everybody was waiting, and then he said this: I don't mind what happens. That's it. That's all that he said. I don't mind what happens. That is where the freedom is. This is what the freedom is. Purnima is saying, knowing that there is no security does not make us secure. Yes, Purnima, if you are still on the path, yes, absolutely, it does not give you security. And that is what he's saying, that you need to hold on to something. All of us, we need something to hold on to, whether it is our possessions, whether it is our relationships, whether it is our power. Then it turns into, our practices or our knowledge or our gurus, something or the other we need for security, right? But that's exactly what he's saying. You have to cross all of these things. Eventually, you have to let go of everything that you may be holding on to and become absolutely secure in that insecurity. Purnima is saying, I think it is to make the mind understand that there is no security. Yes, there is no security, but yes, it cannot be understood just by looking at this statement, isn't it? We still have to walk, do whatever path that we are doing, we have to walk on it. If there are certain practices, whatever guru that we have taken, and slowly and steadily, you will come to a point where you will be able to realize this truth for yourself. But until then, one has to do all those things. When Krishnamurti ji is talking, he is giving you the highest truth, the undiluted truth. But it does not make sense to a common person, because until the time we are still mired in our ignorance, we are still holding on to many, many things, including our ignorance, including our knowledge. We cannot understand what he's talking about. So, many times we keep talking about how we have to adjust with the society. He also established schools which are really good. The most famous is the Rishi Valley School. And when I was listening to Sadhguru's talk on Krishnamurti, he mentioned that, what helped him to know about Krishnamurti was that he was influenced to put his daughter in Krishnamurti's school. So that is the influence that Krishnamurti had on his life. All right then, thank you very much for joining in. Hope you enjoyed knowing about Krishnamurti. Hope it will help you or inspire you in some way. Thank you so much. I'll see you again next Thursday.